the big news of the day. And I'm not surprised to see it. Let me just say this. I mean, Florida State leads the nation in opponent completion percentage. Florida State leads the nation in pass breakups. Florida State leads the nation in defending and fewest turnovers lost. Which look, you think about what that's an offensive stat in a way, but it's also a testament to what your defense has done. They're third in sacks, they're fourth in passing touchdowns allowed. Their third down defense is also fourth. They're fifth in turnover margin, sixth in scoring defense. Why am I telling you all of those rankings? Well, the news is that Adam Fuller has been signed to an extension. And Tom, I guess we're not real surprised by that, are we? I mean, that makes sense that he would get that extension. This defense kind of carried the day, the back end of the season, without a doubt. But really, going all the way back to the first game, that second half against LSU is still fresh in our memories because it's the only time Jaden Daniels has been shut down for a quarter, let alone a half.
It is a remarkable season that they had against the backdrop that in the preseason, all we were looking for was Florida State to be a top 30 defense, top 35 in most metrics, because we thought that the explosiveness, the consistent elite level play from the offense that was coming would put the defense in a position where just make a few stops and we're going to win football games. And for the balance of the season, the defense was the more consistent side of the football. Even though Florida State's schedule involved a lot of backup quarterbacks or lackluster offenses, the defense generally followed a pattern at minimum. And at minimum, that pattern was they're going to give some stuff up in the first half, but then it's your ass for the second 30 minutes. And it's going to be unholy what they do after halftime. And they did that the entirety of the season, and it was capped off with something more than that, which was 38 possessions of defense, 1 touchdown allowed, and that touchdown was highly in question if you saw how it all played out down for down. Just a tremendous season for Adam Fuller, whose approval rating, I mean, look, man, you probably can answer it better than anybody, but his approval rating was maybe on the good side of 50, 60%. Now it's got to be in those upper 80s, lower 90s, I would think at minimum.
You know, I just think because some bad things happened early in his tenure here when the team wasn't very complete and they had some embarrassing moments, and we had games where you're watching a defense, they don't even show up on your screen when you're watching passes be completed. They were not coordinated, if you recall me saying those words. It didn't look like they had any idea as to what they were doing. That resonated for a long time, including going into this season. I don't think a lot of people trusted Adam Fuller to field a championship level defense. In the championship game, in the ACC championship game, Louisville averaged 2.7 yards per play. 2.7 yards per play. They had less than 190 yards of offense, Tom, in a football game with an offense that averaged, 30-plus points a game. So they were dominated. You go back through all the games when Florida State needed to have a defensive dominant performance. They got it. Florida's offense was not the problem for the Gators this year. Florida's offense was very, very good, and it got completely shut down after the first half, completely shell-shocked. Now, I know they were on a backup quarterback, and look, certainly he benefited some from facing several backup quarterbacks, but the totality with which they dominated speaks to something more than just having a string of good games against bad teams.
Yeah, there are a couple of places you could look to say, well, where would you define as a place where you'd say that is because of coaching? That is because of development. Because the thing I said in the preseason was, all right, they had their limitations last year. 100% there were things that you could be critical for Adam Fuller and what came across his desk and what he was responsible for. But that defensive line was beat to hell, and it was thin last year. Let's see what he does with a defensive line like this. And players matter. They matter more than anything to the end of the Battle's End interview that we're going to be doing in a little bit. But man, the thing that was night and day from last year to this year was pressure packages, was blitzes, was getting downhill, playing free and fast. And it wasn't a one-trick pony. Yeah, Kalen DeLoach is really good at getting downhill and blitzing. Safeties did it. Corners did it. They ran really good games, especially towards the end of the season. I was waiting all season to see the Braden Fisk, Jared Verse thing that I saw in camp, which was a nightmare of a duo that were evil in how they could free each other up. The combination of all of those things, it didn't take light years for a blitzer to get home and affect the quarterback this season. They were instantly in the backfield. They were overwhelming. The one thing that's left, I think, is to play a little bit of zone. But if you keep bringing players in at the level that Florida State amassed this roster this season, he's ready for prime time. That defense could have won us a national title this year, and that's what pisses me off about Sunday.
I know they could have beat Michigan. I don't know if they would have won the national title, maybe.
What if Washington had beaten Texas, though? So if you got Michigan, Washington before you to win the title, that defense is plenty good to get you all the way to the podium.
Yeah, you can get there. You can get there, and it's tragic. I just know this. In a weird matchup like the one against Michigan, let's say, you would have Darrell Jackson back to go along with, obviously, Farmer, which we've talked about. We saw what Braden Fisk was at the end of this year. He was unblockable. The last 3 games, you could not block him. I mean, he single-handedly changed the game from the opening snap against Louisville, where he's in the backfield immediately tossing the running back. You're like, whoa, this, if that's a harbinger of things to come, Louisville's got a problem. And then Jared Verse joined the party. But, it's amazing to think about. That game, Tom, if we were to play it, and I don't want to dwell on this, if we were playing Michigan, that has 20-17 to the victor written all over it. I don't know who wins, but it's a close game.
It could be 20-10 the way this defense is playing. That is the source of my fury.
Yeah.
Is how inspired they played, how mean they played. They dismissed Louisville the way 13 would do. That defensive performance, you could have transported that 10 years ago, and it could have been Telvin and Timmy and LaMarcus. It was that kind of a performance. And I know that this is an offensive sport, and I like the Keon Coleman's of the world too. But when you see an effort like that, nothing fires me up more as a football fan than when a defensive line eats the way that Florida State's defensive line did, and players matter. Adam Fuller didn't suddenly become a great coach. He was who he was. The players helped improve the way it all presents. But conversely, you could say it the other way. Adam Fuller wasn't an awful coach in stretches last year. That defensive line was thin, it was beat up, and it limited what Florida State could do defensively.
Well, this will be interesting. Adam will now be under a lot of pressure. He's paid handsomely. He was already making $1.2 million. He's getting a raise with this deal. It's a 3-year deal, so there'll be a lot of pressure on him. I'm sure he's up to it. He loves the game. All he does is eat, drink, sleep football. He's a football nut. And I know he's a proud husband and father, so I'm not trying to diminish that, but he admits that he is forever thankful to his family when you talk to him, because he says he's obsessed with football. He wants to coach all day long. He's watching football. He's coaching football. He's breaking football down 18 to 20 hours a day. This is what he does.
Yeah.
If you're going to pay somebody handsomely and you want to believe in them, they better have that, right? They better have that obsession with their job and the obsession to be perfect. It's a weird game, but the bottom line is this. That's not real healthy in your everyday walk of life, but it has to exist on good football staffs, because that's what the money's for. That's why they get all of that money, because they have to sacrifice everything else.
A season like this should afford you reputation points that would make you an even more effective recruiter of the high school circuit. Adam Fuller is already known on the staff and in the circles of the portal world to be excellent at part of Florida State's vetting process,
yes,
seeing who's a good candidate who fits at 19, 20, 21 years old to come into Tallahassee and come play football for Florida State. The way the defense played this year is going to make it easier for him to go into living rooms of high school players and parents and say, come to Florida State. The way that Jeremiah Smith has been enamored with Florida State's offense thanks to Keon Coleman. These things, they tend to get contagious. But now the question becomes, he is secure, 100% secure, and for good reason, and earned and merit, all that stuff. Do you fortify the staff now with another recruiter on the defensive side of the ball that can help in the high school ranks, because Adam Fuller is a badass in the portal?
Yes, I screamed to the mountaintops, yes, loudly.
Yeah. I figured you'd enjoy that question.
Yeah. You think I got a guy in mind to get rid of and a guy to bring in? Yes, I do. And we'll see. See how we do with the recruiting of linebackers. But anyhow, I just yes. I can't say it enough.
So the funny thing is, in retrospect, if I was to say list the top 5 plays of the season, and I know plays aren't games, they're moments, but the most important 5 plays this season. Okay. How many are defense? How many are offense?
I'll tell you what, there's two in the opening game.
There could be a couple special teams in there, actually, but yeah. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
but there's two in the opening game that set the path for Florida State and the rest of the season, let alone in that game. It's Keon Coleman's catch over the middle and subsequent run to the end zone. You talk about setting a tone, and that your superstar hired gun is coming in and changing the dynamic of the offense. And we forget, because of the way the offense struggled in the second half of the season, that Florida State led the conference in scoring, that they averaged almost 40 points a game. They were at one time a very good offense. We tend to forget that. But they set the tone with his 3 touchdowns in game number 1. But the first one being the slant there where he catches it, makes the guy miss, and then it's off to the races. I think everybody knew in that moment, Florida State's got him one. They got a guy. They got a dude. Everybody knew Johnny. Johnny doesn't flip the scoreboard. Keon Coleman can flip the scoreboard in an instant. And then I would tell you the interception, Renardo Green's interception over Jaden Daniels in the second half. Peace out. This is about to be good night, Irene. That interception. I know people will point to the goal line stand. I got you. I'm telling you, I think that interception was lights out.
It was the goal line stand, though, given how, bemoaned Adam Fuller was, the defense was for stretches last year.
First play of the game, they 60 yards. Yeah.
They have an alignment issue. Yeah, but that response there, Adam's quote coming out of that game was awesome. He said, they love their receivers, and I know they want to be in man-to-man, but we love man-to-man too. And it's like, oh, man, he knows what he's got. But there was also the Bethune hit in that game. Like, the Deloach sack fumble
that's the number one play of the year.
Is the number one play of the year. But the defense is around a whole lot of the plays of the year, and I don't think we would have expected that before the season commenced.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah, the Deloach sack against Clemson when the game is in balance is, this is the whole thing. If they score there, good night, thanks for playing. You lose to Clemson again, and we're talking about an ungodly streak. And, the angst we would have right now thinking about next year's game, so you
Platinum Bohica at the time, yeah.
Yes, that's ridiculous. So, yeah, man. That play is unreal. There's several big defensive plays. Florida State came up big on defense in the second half of the Miami game after they were running all over us. So the defense really is the one that salted that away in the second half.
Yep. No, yeah, they got fingerprints over this whole thing. They often held the fort down in order to get. Look, even the Duke game, they put that game on ice down the stretch. Just get the ball back to Jordan. He was in a good rhythm. They were all over the place.